They said they came to protect us. Their ships blotted out the sun, gleaming silver titans casting shadows over every city on Earth. The skies filled with light, and their voices filled every screen, every speaker, every mind. "Do not be afraid," they said. "We are here to defend humanity." For the first time in history, every war stopped. Every nation fell silent. People wept in the streets, believing salvation had finally arrived. But salvation doesn't tremble. Because when the first alien envoy descended, their eyes were too calm, too rehearsed, and their offer too perfect. They spoke of peace, of safety, of protection from unseen threats among the stars. Yet no one asked what those threats were. No one, except one man, a soldier, half forgotten, standing at the edge of a broadcast he was never meant to be part of. He looked up at the towering being that called itself a guardian and asked 6 simple words. "From who exactly are you defending us?" The room froze, the air thickened, and for the first time, their perfect alien smile faltered. In that silence, that single heartbeat between empires, humanity realized something chilling. We were never the ones who needed defending. We were the ones they feared. Because what kind of species makes gods nervous? If that gave you chills, hit that like button, because the real story is just getting started. The world hadn't ended. Not yet. But it had learned how to hold its breath. After the ships arrived, life didn't stop, it just slowed. In the crowded streets of New York, people still went to work. Traffic lights still blinked and coffee still brewed, but every glance drifted upward, toward the alien silhouettes hovering like judgment in the sky. News channels looped footage of the consortium fleet, those massive vessels glimmering with cold perfection. Some called them angels, others whispered the word occupiers. And somewhere between those two beliefs, humanity waited. Sergeant Leo Guzman didn't believe in angels. He'd seen too many things burn, too many uniforms folded neatly for next of kin. After 20 years of service, he had learned that peace always came with a bill. Still, he stood at his post outside the United Nations tent, sweating through his dress blues, pretending that this time, maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Inside, reporters buzzed around like trapped bees. Every major nation had sent someone. Cameras were pointed at a holographic podium where the alien envoy would soon appear. The air reeked of hot electronics and nervous hope. Guzman wasn't there for politics. He was there because someone had to stand guard, and because orders were orders. Beside him, Private Miller fidgeted, a kid barely old enough to shave. "You think they mean it, Sarge? Protecting us, I mean." Guzman didn't answer right away. He watched a drop of sweat crawl down the side of his wrist and vanish into the crease of his glove. "Kid," he said finally, voice low, "nobody travels light years for charity." Miller frowned. "So why come here?" Guzman stared at the alien ship visible through the tent flap, a mountain of light and shadow that didn't so much hover as judge. "That," he said, "is the question nobody's asking." Across the ocean, in a cluttered London apartment glowing with monitor light, Glitch, real name Amira Halim, was watching the broadcast feed through 6 cracked screens. A caffeine-fueled genius and part-time cyber-anarchist, Amira didn't trust anything that spoke in the plural, especially not something that used the phrase, "for your own good." Her fingers danced across a keyboard, tracing the broadcast's digital fingerprints. The signal wasn't just transmitting, it was listening, measuring tone, react. Silence broke like glass.
Dropships tore the sky open. They spilled machines, walkers and harvesters, sleek as predators, brutal as law. Cities became moonscapes of smoke and torn steel. The first volley didn't announce itself. It erased avenues. It erased light. It erased whole blocks in a single indifferent breath. People ran. People hid. People prayed. The consortium's cannons drew constellations of fire across glass and concrete. Tanks tried, jets tried, nothing stopped the walkers. Their shields laughed at missiles. Their targeting was an answer to math and malice. Gusman saw a child's hand slip from a mother's grip in Midtown and never forget it. He saw Private Miller go down trying to pull a trapped family from a collapsed subway car. He smelled blood and burnt plastic and something worse, the tangible metallic stink of promises betrayed. They were not neutral guardians. They were surveyors with weapons. The defense they offered looked a lot like occupation. The first phase was efficient. Precision strikes crippled military command centers. Communications went fuzzy. Emergency frequencies filled with static, and then, perplexingly, with a polite voice offering assistance protocols. It sounded like courtesy at the end of a bullet. It sounded like control. Across the web, Amira watched the world disassemble into curated broadcasts. She saw the same message loop on every channel. The consortium would provide safety in exchange for cooperation. Their solution was smooth. Their demands were not. She dug deeper. The code didn't just listen. It suggested. It nudged logistics, rerouted shipments, flagged non-compliant communities. Amira found manifest files, resource allocations, slave quotas, casualty projections cold enough to make her fingers numb when she read them. This was a takeover dressed as salvation. It was accounting. It was a ledger for conquest. She leaked a single file, a single spreadsheet, annotated with her own angry commentary and memes that made the Arbiter look ridiculous. It went viral in minutes. Governments tried to suppress it. They failed. People watched the manifests and understood. The spreadsheets didn't lie. The Arbiter's soft voice had just been numbers disguised as concern. The revelation lit something in the human chest that had no use for fear anymore. That something was anger. Street-level resistance grew like wildfire. It started with sabotage, a subway control loop fried in Seoul, a harvester disabled off the Australian coast by men who had nothing to lose but their fear. Farmers in the Midwest rigged tractors into makeshift EMP rigs. Fishermen turned nets into traps. 1,000 small, stupid human ideas began to dent the consortium's perfect lines. And for each small success, the machines grew crueler. Walkers would sweep a block and then set a radius of compliance, an invisible line where anyone inside was given rations, care, and microchips. Outside, they burned. Inside, they were sterilized. Their methods were clinical and theatrical. They wanted consent. They wanted a willing species to show up and accept its own handcuffs. Guzman learned to read the machines. He learned their patience. He learned their rhythm. He also learned what humans did best when cornered: improvise. An abandoned crane became a weapon. A scrap generator became a grenade. A gambler's enthusiasm for risk became a tactic. Tanker, Sergeant Leo Guzman, led a crew that did not know the word retreat in their marrow. They took one walker at a time. They failed a lot, but failure, when human, taught. They burnt the first walker with gasoline and jury-rigged explosives. It was ugly. It was loud. It left a corpse of metal that had once been an instrument of terror. People filmed it. The footage spread. The sight of a walker collapsing under human ingenuity felt like sunlight through a storm. But the consortium adapted. Their AI analyzed every tactic, learned human patterns, predicted them, and countered them with surgical precision. Retaliations were immediate. Occupation became a shadow war that harvested the brave and then moved on. Cities that rose in rebellion had to be paid for in blood. The emotional arc hardened. Fear curdled into fury. Fury turned into movement. People were ungovernable now, not because they were strong, but because they were unpredictable. The consortium had anticipated awe, parsed obedience, budgeted for surrender. They had not accounted for absurdity. Amira tuned in, routing feeds and feeding back contradictions into the consortium's own analytics. She planted false profiles, laced data streams with nonsense, taught an alien system the meaning of human whimsy. It learned that not all inputs equaled compliance. It learned that humans could be intentionally wrong in ways that broke pattern recognition. On a moonlit night in Kansas, Jacob Reed and a ragtag vigil of farmers ambushed a harvester. They used pitchforks and plows and the old stubbornness of people who'd wrestled soil for generations. They set one machine rolling into a ravine. They lost 3 good friends doing it. They gained a roadblock in their town where people now gathered and planned. Jacob's hands trembled, not from age, but from adrenaline, as he tucked a scavenged rifle into a farmer's arms and taught a neighbor how to hold it steady. Every victory had a cost. Every small victory drew a response colder and larger. The consortium began to target supply lines. They started using civilians as shields. They rationed oxygen in neighborhoods. They seeded rumors about human terrorists, making frightened populations turn on each other. The arbiter spoke of the inevitable toll of progress with the practiced calm of an accountant signing a balance sheet. The sound of that voice in the air felt like a knife in the ribs. Cliffhanger. When Tanker's team raided a captured airfield to steal a courier ship, they found something worse than weapons. They found a manifest with a name on it. It listed target coordinates not for armies, but for family compounds. It listed dates. It listed children. Tanker's hands went cold. He keyed his comm and said one word into a silence that tasted like iron. Now. The stolen courier's engines roared, a heartbeat of hope, then stuttered. Alarms screamed. The hangar doors began to close. Somewhere across the world, Amara's monitors blinked red. Her breach alerts pinged like dying hearts. Someone, somewhere, was not just fighting a war. They were making a stand that would not fit within the consortium's neat spreadsheets. And in the pause before the hangar sealed completely, Tanker saw 2 things happen at once. The stolen ship's AI quietly, inexplicably played a fragment of static. A child's laugh recorded from a street cam. And Glitch's voice, bright and furious in his ear. Don't die like everyone expects. Do the stupid thing. He grinned through the fear. He flipped switches. The engines coughed to life. The hangar door slammed. The sky outside was a swelling sheet of fire. And as the courier leapt into the sky, leaving a city that howled behind it, human hearts beat with one clear, impossible rhythm. We will not kneel. If you'd stand with humanity in this fight, hit that like button and let's finish this.
The stolen courier screamed through the upper atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot, as if defiance itself were burning inside it. Inside, Tanker gripped the controls, sweat running into his eyes. The crew around him, soldiers, mechanics, and one unlicensed hacker who'd become humanity's heartbeat, held their breath as alarms painted the cockpit in angry red light. They had stolen more than a ship. They had stolen a chance. The intel Glitch uncovered told them the truth. A massive Pax Arbitraria fortress, a weapon the size of a moon, was on its way to Earth. Its reactor could vaporize continents in a single coordinated defense strike. The consortium called it a pacification engine. To them, war was ordered. To humanity, it was extinction. The plan was insane. Of course it was. Every great human idea starts that way. They would take the courier into the belly of the beast, slip past its patrols using Glitch's hacked codes, dock where no one sane would dare, and then pull the lever that no alien thought would ever be used, the manual vent buried in the fortress's core. It wasn't just suicide. It was symbolism. As Glitch said over comms, voice sharp and wild, "Let's show them what happens when the underdogs rewrite the manual." The Pax Arbitraria filled the stars ahead, a perfect, terrifying sphere. Its hull glowed with lines of blue light, each one pulsing like a heartbeat, a dead god pretending to be alive. Entering shadow range, Valkyrie whispered from the pilot's seat, knuckles white. If their sensors blink, even once, we're space dust.
Good thing they think we're already theirs, Glitch murmured. I've painted us as a medical evac. Nobody questions compassion. Yeah? Tanker smirked grimly. They should. The ship shuddered as docking clamps engaged. The air went thin. They were inside. The corridors of the fortress were impossibly vast, white, seamless, and sterile. Everything hummed with quiet power. It didn't feel built, it felt grown. Every step echoed, every breath felt like a sin. They moved fast, Glitch with her tablet, Tanker with his rifle, Valkyrie scouting ahead. Graves, the quiet giant with a gun fit for a god, brought up the rear. Doors opened with gentle chimes, almost polite, as if the ship still believed they belonged there. Then the alarms began. The AI had noticed them, not as invaders, but as anomalies. Something in the system whispered, these shouldn't exist. Lights turned crimson. The hum of the engines deepened, resonating like a war drum. Glitch, Tanker barked. I know, she snapped, fingers flying. They're rewriting access faster than I can fake it. Wait. She froze. Her eyes widened. Oh, that's clever. They're letting us in. Valkyrie blinked. Why would they? Because they want to know what we'll do, Glitch whispered. They're watching. Then let's give them a show, Tanker growled. They reached the central chamber, a cathedral of light. At its heart stood the reactor core, a column of pure energy, beautiful and terrible. And there, at its base, was a single lever. Polished metal. Manual override. Tanker stared at it, heartbeat thundering. That's it? Graves nodded. That's it. The Arbiter's voice filled the air, deep and smooth, and utterly calm. Humans, stop. You misunderstand. This is for your safety, for the stability of your kind. Chaos breeds extinction. Order breeds survival. Glitch laughed bitterly. You mean obedience breeds silence. The Arbiter ignored her. Do you think destruction will free you? You cannot win against the infinite. Tanker stepped forward, close enough to see his reflection warped in the lever's surface. Maybe not, he said quietly, but you'll remember we tried. The first shots came from above, sleek drones pouring into the chamber, spinning, firing streams of molten plasma. Graves roared, opening up with his cannon. Drones shattered midair, sparks rained like hellfire. Valkyrie dove behind a console, firing bursts with soldier's precision. Glitch's fingers blurred, forcing open access ports, locking down bulkheads, jamming signals. 2 minutes before overload, she shouted. Plenty of time, Tanker muttered, shoving her behind cover as another blast tore through the wall. Her armor smoked, but she kept moving. Then, a sound rolled through the chamber, like thunder inside a heartbeat. A massive figure descended from the upper levels, an armored Arbiter sentinel, 10 feet tall, blade for an arm, eyes burning blue. It landed with a shattering boom. Defiance is illogical. Yeah, Tanker spat, reloading. That's kind of our thing. He fired. The bullets flattened against its armor. The thing raised its blade. Graves intercepted, blocking with his cannon. The impact threw him backward, but he didn't fall. He grinned, teeth bloodied. Go. I'll hold the door. No, Valkyrie shouted. He just shook his head. Someone has to buy the ending. The sentinel lunged. Graves met it head-on, yelling a war cry that shook the floor. He emptied his cannon at point-blank range. The explosion drowned everything. When the light faded, the giant was gone. So was Graves. Tanker's chest burned. Fury replaced air. He sprinted for the lever. Plasma grazed his shoulder, armor sizzling, but he didn't slow. The Arbiter's voice grew frantic now, a distortion of calm cracking. You cannot comprehend the cost. Pull that lever and you doom your world." "Maybe," Tanker growled, "but it will be our choice." He grabbed the lever with both hands. It was heavier than he expected, a weight of intent. Glitch's voice trembled through static. "Do it, Leo." He looked up at the reactor, a blinding storm of power. "For Graves," he whispered. "For everyone." He pulled. The floor split open with light. The fortress screamed, metal shrieking, reality bending. From orbit, the Pax Arbitraria bloomed like a dying star. Energy ripped through its core, cascading in violent symmetry. Every drone, every walker, every enslaving machine tethered to its command went silent. The entire galaxy heard the scream of perfection dying. The blast hurled the team through collapsing corridors. Valkyrie's voice came through, faint and furious. "Escape pods, move!" They dove into one as the station tore itself apart. The pod launched, spinning into the black void. Earth glimmered below, untouched. The fortress burned above it like an artificial sunrise. Inside the pod, Glitch laughed through tears. "You did it, Sarge. You really—" She cracked. She looked at the data feed. "Leo, the reactor. It's spreading." "What?" "The signals piggybacking through their network. Every world connected to the consortium is getting the feed. They're watching their gods die." And out there, across countless worlds once ruled by fear, 1,000 species watch the impossible. Humans destroying perfection with nothing but stubborn courage and a lever. Somewhere in a mining colony, a worker whispered the words that would ignite rebellions across galaxies. "If they can do it, so can we." The pod drifted silently through the wreckage, the burning fragments of a fallen empire, glowing like stars. Tanker slumped against the console, exhausted, half-conscious, whispering to no one. "We didn't need saving. We never did." And as the light of their victory painted Earth's clouds gold, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, as if in awe of a species too defiant to die quietly. If that gave you chills, share this story and remind the galaxy who we are.
The air trembled with the thunder of 1,000 engines. The fleet of Vance blotted out the stars, their weapons igniting the sky like the wrath of gods. On the ground, colonists huddled in terror, watching their supposed savior collapse beneath chains they could not see. Zarya the Empress, the cub once fed by human hands, convulsed, her claws tearing deep furrows in the earth. Each tremor racked her body as though her very soul were being peeled away. Her soldiers stood frozen, powerless, eyes wide with disbelief. Above, a single voice whispered through every comm channel, smooth and venomous. "Asset 734. Stand down. Submit. Vance." The words were chains of fire. Zarya screamed, her golden eyes dimming, pupils dilating as the kill switch seized her mind. Her tail thrashed, her armor cracked under the strain, and for the first time the Empress who had cowed galaxies looked small, trapped. And in the silence between her screams, humanity moved. Owen staggered forward. His knees buckled, his breath came ragged, but his voice was iron. "Look at me, Zarya." Her head snapped toward him, trembling, half feral, half broken. Her teeth bared, but the sound that came was not a growl, it was a sob. Owen fell to his knees before her, pressing his hands against her face, forcing her to see him. His voice cut through the storm, low but unyielding. "Remember who you are.
You are not their weapon. You are mine. You are ours. The kill switch fought harder, glowing lines of crimson crawling across her skin like molten veins. She howled, clutching his wrists with strength that could have crushed bone, but Owen did not flinch. He held on, pouring every memory, every ounce of love into her trembling form. He whispered of the nights under leaking roofs, of the taste of broth, of the first word she had ever read. He whispered the name he had given her, the name no empire could erase. Zarya. Her body convulsed once more, then stilled. The crimson veins flickered, sputtered, and shattered like glass. Her eyes snapped open, blazing gold, brighter than the fleets above. With a roar that split the heavens, she ripped the invisible leash apart. The psychic kill switch screamed through the airwaves and died, its echo collapsing into silence. And when the silence fell, the Empress rose. Her soldiers dropped to their knees, not in fear, but in awe. The colonists gasped, some crying, some laughing in disbelief. For the first time, the Empress did not stand as a ruler above them, but as one of them. She raised her hand. The ground shook as her warship, the Vengeance, roared to life. Obsidian hulls shimmered as cloaked ships broke the atmosphere, swarming to her side. "Prepare for war," she said, her voice sharp, steady, unbreakable. The people cheered, not because they believed they could win, but because at that moment they believed in her. The battle ignited. The skies became fire. Vance's fleet rained plasma on the colony, scorching craters into the earth. But humanity did not scatter. They fought. Farmers turned engineers, wielding salvaged railguns and jury-rigged defenses. Colonists loaded children into bunkers and returned with weapons in trembling hands. Zarya led the charge, her ship carved through the enemy's front line, her claws tearing apart boarding parties that dared breach her command deck. Owen stood beside her, directing human fighters through comm channels, exploiting every corporate protocol he had ever learned. Together, they became something new. The beast of the underworld, the mind of humanity, the heart of both. But victory came with a price. The enemy flagship descended, dwarfing all others. Its cannons rotated toward the colony, glowing brighter than a sun. Vance himself appeared on the holoscreens, his smirk unshaken. "You cannot kill what built you, girl. You will always be mine." And then he unleashed it. An weapon designed not to kill fleets, but to annihilate worlds. The colony's surface split, the ground boiling as energy built beneath their feet. Screams echoed across the comms. The weapon would erase everything. Zarya's soldiers looked at her. The colonists cried out. And in the center of the storm, Owen understood. There was only one way. He said, "Divert their fire." His voice was steady, though his hands trembled. "Take the shot on me." Zarya's head snapped toward him, fury in her eyes. "No." "You know it, Zarya. He doesn't want the colony. He wants you broken. He wants me. If he sees me sacrifice, it ruins his leash forever. He'll lose." Her claws trembled. For a moment, she was not an empress, not a ruler, but a child again, staring up at the man who had once fed her scraps in the dark. "I can't lose you." "You won't,"
Owen whispered, pressing his forehead against hers. "I'll be with you, always, in every breath you take, in every fire you light." And before she could stop him, he slammed the override. The Vengeance roared forward, shields opening to draw the weapon's wrath. Owen locked himself at the control core, every alarm blaring, energy built like a star about to be born. Zarya screamed his name, clawing at the barrier, but it was too late. The world split in light. A column of fire ripped through the sky, tearing the flagship apart. The colony trembled, mountains shattering, clouds boiling into glass. And then silence. The smoke cleared. The colony stood, scorched, broken, but alive. The enemy fleet was in ruins, their flagship a drifting husk in orbit. The Empress stood at the heart of the survivors, armor cracked, eyes burning with fury and grief. She stared at the empty space where Owen had been. Her chest rose and fell, trembling, but her voice was iron. "He gave you his life," she said to the survivors, her soldiers, their enemies, to the galaxy itself. "Now I give you mine, not as your conqueror, as your shield, as your fire." And above her, the symbol of the destroyed flagship burned into the heavens like a scar, an image that would haunt galaxies for generations. The day a human gave his life to break an empire's chains.